Okay, so we are here at the World Autism Summit again. And of course, we are with Jessica Stasik, and she is a doctoral candidate in astrophysics at Vanderbilt University and is supported as a neurodiversity inspired science and engineering fellow by the Frist Center for Autism and Innovation, where she is also the project and communications manager. She started her journey into neurodiversity when she was 27, and earlier this year, at age 32, was officially diagnosed as autistic with ADHD and OCD. Jessica believes in the power of the strengths-based paradigm of neurodiversity and maintains that given the correct support and accommodations, neurodiverse individuals can achieve their dreams. This possibility is evident through her own experience. When undiagnosed, she struggled in her work and social life, but following diagnosis and accommodation, she is now pursuing her PhD and fulfilling her social life. But following diagnosis and accommodations, I think I read that twice.
You're good.
She is fulfilling her career goals while living with her husband and dogs on the big island of Hawaii. We really, really appreciate you being here, Jessica.
No worries.
Yes.
Boy,
It's been a long day, but probably a long day for you too.
it's been a long day, but I'm glad to be here. I'm happy to speak on this always. So
Yes.
absolutely.
And so, what has inspired you to be part of the World Autism Summit?
Well, I guess you, Karen, because we met and I really like your energy. And I think it's always just very important to kind of elevate the voices where we can. And if that in this case means mine, then sure, we can hope to inspire.
I love what you're doing. Like just living on the island. Like that's one place that I visited with Stephen Shore. We had conferences there. I even took him swimming with the dolphins, and it's got such lovely, lovely energy over there.
Yeah, the big island paradise for sure.
Yes. So, what's like inspired you? What is your why for what you do?
For what I do, generally. So, I mean, what I do as opposed to like the kind of communications work I do, which is neurodiversity based, but my main job is I'm an astrophysicist.
Yeah.
And what inspires me to do that, I think, is just this my love of Star Trek, my love of my thirst for knowledge, as it were. And I really feel like there's a lot more to the universe, a lot more to life, a lot more to the galaxy than we kind of, I feel like we get stuck in the weeds a lot down here on Earth. So I really like to explore and try and find out new things and kind of extend our knowledge as the human race. That's the big picture. The kind of the day-to-day of what I do is galactic archaeology. So I look at stars in the galaxy as kind of like a fossil record or artifacts of the history of the galaxy to determine how it formed and evolved. So we can hopefully get a history of how we got here. Is kind of the end-all question. But there's other kind of areas around that are inspiring for me. Like I love mentoring my students and traveling to conferences, meeting new people, and being able to kind of just work together to forward our knowledge in space. I really am a bit of a space nerd.
Me too. My dad was an aeronautical engineer. He worked at
Yeah.
swear. I think we share that.
I think a lot of it is we just I see a lot of the news and things going on here, and I look up at the stars and I'm like, why can't we just all get along? And I know it's not that simple. But
maybe it is.
maybe, yeah, I don't know. I can't solve that problem.
So in the big picture, like that's what you sound like, you're a very big picture thinker. How would you like to see the world and the work that you do change and shift the world around autism and neurodiversity?
Right. So I do a lot of work as well at the program manager for the Frist Center. So the Frist Center for Autism and Innovation is housed in the School of Engineering at Vanderbilt University. Its director is Kayvan Stassen, who also happens to be my PhD advisor. So that's how that kind of connects. He's an astronomer too. So I do a lot of communications work there. And that basically involves doing things like this. It involves putting on conferences. It involves helping students and social media and mailing lists and websites and everything else. Lots of things that other people don't want to do, I think. Like, I get all that kind of work. But I really think the Frisk Center makes just an amazing impact, because our mission is to kind of bridge that gap between higher education and the workforce. So, you get in, and accommodations in schools could definitely improve, but in school, folks with autism tend to get the accommodations they need, and that kind of starts to drop off when you get into higher education. But in the workforce, a lot of the times there's none. And it's about remembering that autistic children become autistic adults, and we need to be able to cater to them and to provide them accommodations and the services they need so they can thrive. So we work purely from a strengths-based perspective, which is, and this is not to say that the disability model of autism isn't important, it is. But the strengths-based perspective looks to provide accommodations and services so that neurodiverse people can use their strengths, right? Can thrive in this world that really wasn't built for us. And I'm hoping through that we can really improve the employment statistics. We can really help individuals achieve their dreams. So that's really what we do.
That's wonderful. I love that. I think that was our first common thread is, focusing on the positives, focusing on what people are doing right instead of what they're doing wrong. Yeah. And if we do that, and focus in that direction, then everything else kind of falls away.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's not to say that there aren't struggles, right? Like, I am a fairly low support needs autistic, but that doesn't mean I don't have support needs. And obviously there are people it's a spectrum, right? And we can't say, oh, well, let's go from a strengths-based model and ignore like the struggles you're having, because that's not going to work at all. But I think it's important to remember that when given those supports, when given those accommodations, neurodiverse students particularly tend to thrive. In many cases do exceptionally well. And it's rare to not see that, like, if you do it right. Do you know what I mean? And I think we're only really starting to, in the last 10 years or so, fully understand that, which opens up a whole new, workforce. It opens up a whole new way of thinking, which is important. Especially in what I do, I think about this a lot, how we need lots of different perspectives in order to do what we do. For astronomy, at least, because we really are doing things that no one has ever done or ever thought of. And to do that, we need a bunch of different thinkings, right? A bunch of different ways of thinking.
That's great. Yeah. So how do you see different organizations working together, globally, to help, grow and shift and change the whole model that we've had in the past?
Yeah, I think this goes back to, we all have to get along, right?
Yeah.
So the neurodiversity movement, as far as I understand it, I came into it quite late, as you said when you introduced me, is really not that old either, right? Like, when I was a kid, I was misdiagnosed many times because back then they didn't think girls could get autism, and I'm only 32, right? Like, that's still fairly young, I think. And so this whole thing has happened awfully quickly, right? This whole movement into neurodiversity, and not having kind of these buckets of ADHD, OCD, autism, whatever, and just having them all as being these different ways of thinking, without obviously putting everyone in one bucket, so to speak. But America, I think, is fairly ahead of the curve in this, compared to other countries that I have counterparts in. I obviously have some connection with the UK, that's where I'm originally from, and the understanding of it there is catching up, but is, from what I can tell, nowhere close to what we have here in the US. And then obviously I don't know an awful lot about other countries around the world in terms of their approach to this, but there are some that are only just starting to kind of think about needing these supports in universities, needing supports generally, moving into a strengths-based model, thinking differently about the disability-based model, and even person first language and things like that. So I think we're ahead, and I think because of that, we need to lead in that. We can really support other countries. We can really kind of, and I love doing that kind of work. If countries want to reach out to me and be help us, I will do it. So, and not to say that we do it correctly. but we're trying, or at least we are at the Frisk Center. I can't speak for the whole of America, but the programs I know of on the mainland and around the States are doing really good work.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's an ever evolving situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think the most important thing here, like with a lot of things, is to listen to the right people, right? Listen to the right voices, listen to the self-advocates, because human beings make this mistake a lot, right? And we sometimes think about this in space science, in how we move forward, especially when we think about going to space and aliens, for lack of a better word, like how we, with, again, I don't have a good word for this, how to colonize space, right? In the sense that we shouldn't. And bringing in people who know how that would look, right? And it's the same kind of thing in neurodiversity, right? We want to make sure that the people who are the autistic people are the people who we're listening to, not their parents, not the doctors, we should listen to those people also, but the main voice here is the person who is experiencing that way of being. And I think that's probably the biggest takeaway of how we should do this, right?
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, absolutely. So you're a doctoral candidate in astrophysics, and graduate school is not easy. How do you navigate graduate school as a neurodiverse student?
Right. This comes up a lot. I have a lot of people reach out to me. So when I started grad school, I wasn't diagnosed. And I ended up leaving my previous grad school and ending up at Vanderbilt, which is when I got diagnosed. And so I have this unique perspective where I've been in both camps. I've been in the camp of undiagnosed, struggling, trying to survive, and I've been in the camp of thriving and knowing what's going on and working hard and being able to be productive and happy. So I think, like, if there are grad students out there who are listening or who are watching who, are either undiagnosed or are diagnosed and wondering how to navigate grad school, like, grad school is hard. Grad school's hard for everybody. Like, grad school is not designed to be easy. And I have thoughts about that too, but like, it's always going to be hard, but like, it doesn't need to be hard because of your neurodiversity, right? Like, and different grad schools and different departments will have different approaches to neurodiversity, some good, some not very good at all. So especially if you're going into a grad school, you're choosing a grad school and you know that neurodiversity is a part of your identity, then you need to find somewhere which accommodates that. And if there's any people who want to do astrophysics, reach out to me, because I know all the good departments for this, but like, I can't speak to other areas of research and study. But when I learned that I was neurodiverse and I had to still navigate grad school, there were some like really key things that have allowed that to happen. And the first one is my advisor. Everyone in grad school will have an advisor, especially when they get to the PhD level, who is essentially their boss. And my advisor is incredibly supportive and understanding, because his son is autistic and he runs the Autism Center. So he knows exactly what I'm going through to a certain extent. And I feel comfortable relaying to him where I'm at. So I could say, I can't work today. Like, I'm not able to work because of like, I'm oversensory, or I've like, something's happened. Like, I just can't. And he understands that. He's not going to push me. And at the same time, he also recognizes that as someone who's neurodiverse, I have strengths. And like, so I'm a very visual thinker. I do well with like big data sets. I do well with seeing patterns. And so he'll put me on projects which align with that, So that's the first thing, is like having a really good advisor. The second thing is like remembering self-care, which everyone always preaches to everyone all the time, but like, and I'm my own worst enemy in this camp because I do not do this enough. But like, taking time out, like, grad school can seem like this never-ending pile of work, and it is, but like, no one's gonna die if it doesn't get done, like, sometimes done is done, and some of the things that surround grad school, some of the ideals that surround grad school, imposter syndrome, perfectionism, the level of work, the hard element of the work is kind of runs counter to a lot of neurodiverse traits, right? Like, because I'm neurodiverse, I am a perfectionist. Because I'm neurodiverse, I have imposter syndrome. So then you go to grad school and those things get compounded. So it's about like being able to look after yourself and recognizing that like your best is good enough, and then there was a third thing. I had a third thing in my head, but it's disappeared now. I would say being true to what brings you joy, because my grad school experience, like everyone's grad school experience, is going to look different. And this kind of comes back to having an advisor that you can trust. So like, I love my research. I could do my research all day and all night, but it's not my only interest. And I have specific interests because of how I'm built. And if I don't indulge in those, then I stop having fun doing my research. So like a lot of, I mean, particularly in astronomy, I can't speak to other disciplines, but in astronomy, it's very research heavy. And some places will be, if they see you doing education or outreach or other initiatives, they'll be like, what are you doing? You should be researching. You want to find somewhere that like is open to you doing those other things as well, because those things are very important. And that's something that's kind of being explored within the academic space generally. But like, I also work at the Frisk Center, and I do some work on the telescope, and I do this, I do a bunch of things. And yes, that's less time to do my research, but when I do my research, I'm happier, so I'm more productive, right? Like if I was just doing my research, I'd probably get the same amount done as I do now, but I just wouldn't be happy about it. So like, that's the third thing I'd say.
Yeah, that's relatable. I have my gemology. I love my gemology, but if I don't do my autism work, then, you know.
Right, exactly. Yeah, different things make you happy, right? Like it doesn't just have to be one thing.
Right.
So that's important.
So you were late diagnosed. How did your experience of school and education change when you were diagnosed?
Yeah, so I mean, I touched on this a bit, obviously, but like I said, I left my previous grad school. But what I would say is for a long time, I kind of knew I was neurodiverse and I didn't bother getting a diagnosis. And some of that was because it was this like internalized ableism. Like I was like, I've survived till I'm 27, 28, whatever. Like I don't need support because clearly I'm okay, but I wasn't okay.
Right.
And so when I went and got diagnosed, I had access to things like medication, and obviously not for autism, for my ADHD. And I thought, you know what? Like it took me a long time because I was misdiagnosed as anxious for years. Like my anxiety is almost completely gone now. So I was prescribed at the time an SSRI, and which they give to a lot of people with anxiety, of course. And I put off taking that for a long time because there's this taboo around taking drugs that change your brain, right? But then I kind of realized that like if you were diabetic, you wouldn't like not take your insulin, right? Because no, it changes me. Like no, you would take your insulin, or like if you had cancer, you would get chemo or whatever, right? Like it's not, and I'm not saying those things are the same, but I kind of got to that headspace about it. So now when I got my diagnosis and my psychiatrist said, well, have you thought about taking medication? I was like, sign me up. Yes, let's try it. Let's see what happens. And it's been life-changing, right? So it's about kind of that physical part of getting diagnosed, although it was very, very scary, has like opened doors for me now. So like, I also know that when I graduate and I go get a job, I have that piece of paper to say like, I need these accommodations, because I know outwardly I don't appear neurodiverse. And that's not the compliment you think it is, you know what I mean? But like, that means that people don't think I need supports, but I do. And this prevents me having to have conversations where I'm not believed, or I have to go through hoops that I wouldn't otherwise have to. So diagnosis part of it was a big part of it for me. Because before that I couldn't get what I needed. Through no one's fault, really, just universities and colleges, like they struggle with neurodiversity because everyone needs something different. It's not as easy as putting in a ramp or providing someone with like a note taker, you know, like for some other disabilities, which obviously are just as important, but are easier to triage because they're visible. So
interesting. Yeah. There's always something different, isn't there?
Right. And some things that like are helpful for me would drive other people crazy. Right. Like that's the thing about autism, is like some of my accommodations are the opposite of what other people need. The same way in theory you could get, you know, someone needing a seeing eye dog and then someone else in the class being horribly allergic to dogs, right? Like you have to find these like common grounds.
Interesting. Yeah. As well as being a graduate student, you're also the project and communications manager for the Frisk Center for Autism Innovation. Can you tell us about the center and what your role is there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've spoken a bit about what the Frisk Center is. My role there, like I said, is kind of a jack of all trades. I do a lot of stuff. But I'm the program and communications manager. So communications wise, it's all the things you would expect a communications manager to do: your social media, your websites, your mailing lists, your triaging emails, your speaking to students, those kinds of things. The project management part is really, really interesting because it goes a bit deeper into things I really like to do. So one of the things I really enjoy is being able to manage kind of big projects that have a really big potential impact on the world. So we just a few years ago got a big grant from the NSF to kind of create this playbook for what it is to teach neurodiversity in the higher education setting. So I'm working on that. We have consultants for that. It's a big team, and I'm really enjoying putting that together because that'll help not just our school, but a lot of other schools and therefore a lot of other students. I also work on a couple of projects myself, like that I have project teams for. So one of them is a neurodiversity in STEM research team. So I'm the principal investigator of that. And basically what we do is we are researching the experiences of undergrad students in STEM. So that's social science, which is way out of my wheelhouse, but I have luckily got some co-PIs who are very knowledgeable in that space. So I'm learning a lot, which is awesome. And then I've been working on another project recently about assistive technologies for spaceflight. So that's kind of marrying my astronomer side with my autistic side. So I really, really want to go to space someday. And I don't ever want to be told, oh, you can't because you're autistic. So we think about what technologies neurodiverse folk would need in space. And I think what's really cool about that is when we think about things like space habitats, like for instance, like a Mars, imagine a Mars habitat. If you could make that comfortable for someone who's autistic, everyone would be happy there, right? Like a rising tide lifts all boats. Like it's never going to be comfortable living on another planet, especially not at first. But if you can make it comfortable enough for someone who already has sensory processing issues, then like it's going to be great, So that's that project. So that's really what I do. Just lots of fun stuff, lots of projects and communications, which is my job title. So there we go.
That's great. Yeah. And like you said, if you make it comfortable for somebody on the spectrum, you make it comfortable for everybody. And like we just finished doing a program for the School of Rock, and we're teaching the music teachers, helping them, with a program to teach the kids music, and helping them understand different sensory behavioral communication and social issues. And that helps them, and it'll help everybody ultimately. So
exactly.
Same thing. There's two different roles in your life. So talk about how they impact work. I think you already did that pretty much.
Okay.
But yeah, go ahead and dig into it some more too.
All right, I realize my notifications are on. And my husband just got back with the dog, so it's all noisy. So let me ask him to close the door. There we go. Okay. Right. I just realized he got back and he's watching Star Trek and the dogs are being loud and I don't want to
too, huh?
Actually, it's the dogs that like Star Trek. One of the puppies really likes it. He gets upset if you don't have it on. He cries. He likes Picard. I've never known a dog to watch TV like Strider does. It's insane. If you put on like the wrong series, he gets upset and starts crying. He has to watch Picard or Enterprise, anything with Picard in it. Not Enterprise, Next Generation. Anyway, sorry, what was your question? Can you say that again?
There's two different roles in your life, which is life and, which everything that you do. So I guess blending your life, you're talking about it right now, how you blend your life, your relationships, everything that you do in your life with you.
Right. Like it's, I'm a very busy person, like, and that's like good and bad, right? Like you could talk about the mental health side of that, but I generally enjoy being busy. I'm not very good at having downtime. I'm not very good at like staying still, which is probably a function of some various neurodiverse traits. But I've learned over the past few years how crucial like time management is. I have really bad time blindness. So being able to kind of manage my time and like, so we have my husband and I, we always have Sundays, because he's very busy as well. So we always make sure Sundays is family day, so like, unless there's something that's like someone will die, like we're spending Sundays together, just me, him and the dogs. Right. And like, so things like that, having these like areas blocked out in my life is the only way that I can, otherwise I forget he existed, bless him, I love him. But if I just allowed myself to sit at my desk all day and do science, nothing would get done. Like the house would be a mess, the dogs wouldn't get walked or fed, Carl probably wouldn't be here, he'd be like off somewhere because I would just be non-existent. So I think like time management and like knowing yourself, right? Like being very aware of the kind of person you are. So I've said to him numerous times, like, if you're home, so he's got a day off today, if you're home and I'm working, if I'm not in a meeting and you decide that you want to hang out with me or chat to me or go on a walk or do something, just come and tell me that. Because otherwise I'm not going to come to you, but I do want to do those things. Like, and you need to come and just like poke me. So occasionally he'll come in and be like, you in a meeting? I'll be like, no. Like, can we, do you want to watch a show, or do you want to go outside with the dogs and play some ball or something? And I'll be like, yes, absolutely. So like also just making sure the people in my life are aware of what I need. Another really good example of this is like, I've always found it really hard to hold down friendships. And it's not because I'm a bad friend or anything, but it's just that I forget that when my friends aren't in the room with me, like I love them, but I just forget they exist. Right. Like I'm like, oh, my best friend in England, like she's amazing and I love her. And that's like the end of the thought, right? So I have things like timers on my phone. I have reminders on my calendar. So like my phone will ping in the morning and be like, remember to answer your text messages. Or like my calendar will ping and be like, it's been a month since you spoke to your best friend. Like you should probably do that. And I know that's a function of my ADHD, right? That's like, and autism as well. It's not that I don't love people. It's not that I don't have that capacity. It's that my brain is very visual. It's focused on what's in front of me. Mm-hmm. So if I don't have those reminders, I just forget. So like my friends will know that. My friends aren't like, oh, she doesn't love me because I haven't spoken to her in a month. They'll ping me and they'll be like, you all right? How's it going? And I'll be like, yeah, it's great. Like, so things like that are really, when you're saying about kind of blending all the aspects of my life, like obviously neurodiversity impacts every area of your life. And so every now and again, I'll do a little kind of check in with myself. And I'll be like, let's think about the different areas, your work, your like relationship with your husband, your friendships, your health, your sleep. Like, which one of these needs some work? Like, which one of these could do with some support? So my phone is like, my phone, my watch, they ping all the time with different reminders, because otherwise I definitely have lunch reminders. I have breakfast reminders. I don't eat if I don't get reminded to eat. So my phone will go off and I'll be like, oh, I need to eat lunch. I need to take my vitamins. I need to.
I'm laughing because that is so. I'm like that too.
Yeah, like I have to, because otherwise, if I sit down at my desk at like 9 a.m., I won't move until 9 p.m. Mm-hmm. Like I need that reminder. And it's not to say different areas of my life aren't important. It's just that once I'm focused on one thing, that's it. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. Which can be useful when it's needed.
Yeah, it's hard on relationships, though. I can tell you that.
Yeah, it is. No, yeah, it is hard on relationships. But I think having an open communication and being kind of, especially with my husband, right? Like he's neurotypical as far as we know, and it has been all about. Although he wasn't surprised at all when I got my diagnosis, I kind of sat him down and was like, "Hey, I'm autistic," and he was like, mm-hmm, "Yep." And like a bunch of my friends, I told them, I was like really psyched, like pumped up for it. I was like, I'm autistic. And they were like, yeah, sure. I see that. Like kind of when I remember in school, we had a friend who we kind of always assumed was like part of the LGBTQ community, but had never told us. And then one day he like got up the strength to tell us, and he told us, and we were like, mm-hmm, yeah. like your friends and your family know you better than they think you do. You think they do, and but once I got that diagnosis and figured out what parts of my psyche were not normal, I was able to like have these discussions with Carl and say, okay, these are some of the things I need. Like, so for example, like I can't grocery shop. Like it takes me a full 6 hours to grocery shop. And I thought that was normal. Like I would have to wake up, prepare myself to shop, write a list that was like aisle by aisle, drive to the store, go around the store, get distracted for like 3 hours in the store, spend way too much money, come home, unpack it, and then nap for like 3 hours because I was exhausted. And I remember saying this to Carl. I was like, does grocery shopping take a whole day? And he's like, no, it doesn't. And I was like, well, why does it take me a whole day? Oh, because it's like super overstimulating in the grocery store, right? There's like colors and people and shapes and sounds, and it's all too much. So now he just does the grocery shopping. And it's just made my life a lot easier. Hopefully his as well. But like it's because it's crazy to me. He just goes to the store, gets what he needs, and returns. It's like mad. I can't imagine that. Madness.
What a concept.
Yeah, I know. It's like this really is like baffling to me. I'm like, how can you do that?
That's hilarious. How do you
Yeah.
think the perspectives of neurodiversity are changing, and how do you think it's shaping how neurodiverse people can access work and school?
Yeah. I guess we touched on this a bit at the beginning with how talking about how the neurodiverse kind of the neurodiversity movement is growing. But I think the perspectives are changing as well. And I think a part of that is that we do now have more self-advocates who are willing to speak out about their disability, right? And like it's the pros and cons in this space. So like one of the pros is that it's giving more of a face to neurodiversity in the same way that like a lot of what we see in the media of neurodiverse is like either the extremes or the what we kind of call in the community the kind of cute autism, right? I think you're like Sheldon Coopers and your characters like that on TV, which like aren't intrinsically bad, but because it does show a certain version of it, but it tends to show the not benefits, but it tends to show the quirks as opposed to the struggle, right? And like so that can be quite dangerous, I think. And you do see I sometimes struggle when I see like TikToks or like Instagrams of people who are maybe ADHD or something, and they're generally out there with good intentions, like trying to help others kind of explore their neurodiversity, but sometimes it touches this particular part of the spectrum which is not like indicative of everybody, right? So like it's, and obviously that's impossible, but so on the one hand I think it's good, like I meet people and they say, oh, like they've obviously never met an autistic person who looks and sounds and is like me, and that broadens their perspective. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we elevate voices from all over the spectrum, right? From like the low support needs, the high support needs, and like everyone in the middle, because it's I just get concerned that someone sees someone with low support needs and they think, oh, well, all autistic people can thrive like that, right? And that's not the case. And they also don't necessarily see what goes on behind the scenes, right? Like if I go to a conference, a big conference, or even things like this, right, where like I'm talking to you and I'm clearly quite chatty and like happy, but you don't see the part where I get off this call and I'm very drained and I have to go lie down in a dark room, things like that, right? Like people at conferences don't see the part where I have to be in bed at 9 and have melatonin and take my medication and like have a little cry and like all those kinds of things, right? They don't see that part. And so I think it's important to be mindful of that when we discuss it. And that's all coming, I talk on and on about the strengths-based approach, and I think it is the right approach, but we can't exclude the struggle. Because we shouldn't normalize it, right? Like and this isn't to say that I think there should be like a cure for autism or I wish I didn't have it. I truly think it makes me the person I am, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't, are there times in my life I wish I wasn't autistic? Yeah, of course, but like less and less these days, but it's still hard.
It's really a good point, to show the whole spectrum. And, there are challenges, and it really needs to be, shown what the challenges can be all the way through. And it's hard to showcase everybody. It really, really is. Like on this conference, we're having like 56 people that I'm recording, like during the whole summit. And that's a lot of recordings. But I mean, I would love to record like a whole vast, showcase of every type of person, but it's impossible.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Definitely want to, be able to, showcase as many different perspectives as possible, and then also have a community. We're going to open a community up so other people can talk to each other.
Yeah, awesome.
Unbiased, platform, so that we can have people from all walks of life be able to communicate with each other, because it's not about me, it's not about our organization, it's about everybody's organization, and being an unbiased platform so people can talk to each other.
Because I mean, there's intersectionalities in it as well, right? Like there is with everything. Like I can speak for like being a white British neurodiverse cis woman, right? That's like a very specific place. And I also like I recognize my privilege in that, right? I have a I look a certain way and I sound a certain way, and that allows me in rooms that others cannot enter, right? So like, I think in that, I try and be really mindful of that, which is why I'm saying that we need to elevate all those different voices, because I understand that I have a privilege that a lot of people don't. And I try and use that as much as I can to the advantage of the community. I know that's like an easy thing to say and it's not that black and white, but if I can advocate for others just due to the fact that I can exist in the space, like I will do that. Because it is, you know, it's a huge web of like autism touches everyone, right? Like every culture, every color, every ethnicity, every gender and sexuality, like are all touched by autism in some way. And it just makes it harder, right? Yeah.
Yes, it does. It makes it harder, but hopefully, you know, people can start to understand and, you know, accept people for who they are, wherever they are in the world, and see things through other people's eyes, you know, and share perspectives and open their hearts and understand, you know.
I think one of the really beautiful things about neurodiversity is because it touches all these groups in the same way, but obviously the experiences are different, but the intrinsic, you know, kind of cognitive issues are the same, is that I've seen, or at least what I've seen in my work, is it's a really interesting way to form like groups and connections. So like, for instance, in the academic space, there's always been, or at least there is in my lifetime been, this kind of power structure set up within academia, right? You have your undergrads, your grad students, your postdocs, your professors, your tenured professors, like, and for a long time, and in at least in astronomy and other kind of hard science disciplines, that power structure is like not serving it's not serving people, right? Like it's designed in a world that doesn't need that now. And that can cause issues, right? Like, especially, I mean, it's pretty obvious to see those issues when you think about the fact that a grad student, for example, is paid by their boss directly, their faculty member, and that person is also directly responsible for their success, right? Like that's not necessarily a safe situation, right? So if you then end up with a relationship where you don't get on with your advisor, like it doesn't really matter how good your science is at that point, right? So that's an example. But what I've seen is that when I start talking to departments that have like astronomy departments, for instance, so I've had people reach out to me and say, like, you have a very unique situation, right? You're an astrophysicist, but you also are in this neurodiversity space and you know about it. Like, can you teach us how to run our department in a way that's neuro-inclusive? And what I find is that talking about neurodiversity actually breaks down some of those power structures in a way that I haven't seen that happen before. Because like, there's obviously power structures in terms of like, I mean, gender and race and things like that are good examples, because, you know, there's a real dearth of like Black professors, right? Like, we're getting more now in astronomy, but like astronomy is essentially an old white man's game, right? Like, so it's going to take time for those people to get to where they need to be. And so you still have like Black undergraduates or people of color in grad school who don't see representation higher up. But neurodiversity is already spread out through the system, because for so many years, people were just like I was, surviving, right? But also have these strengths within autism that allow them to be very good at science sometimes, right? Like, and this is not to say that all autistic people should be good at science. That is a stereotype. But like visual thinking and those kinds of things really help. So when I go into these departments and I start talking about neurodiversity, and I'm very clear that like, this isn't me talking about how to treat your students, this is me talking about how to treat everyone, you start having faculty go, oh, I think I'm neurodiverse.
Yeah.
Or people higher up, right? And then it kind of creates this like kind of symbiosis amongst the groups where it takes away some of that power like dynamic. Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of it's like a side effect of it, but it's nice to see, because, you know, I have so many of these conversations in astronomy about how do we make astronomy, you know, better for people of color, for people who are LGBTQ, for people who identify with their gender differently, those kinds of things. And it's not always easy in those spaces, but in neurodiversity, I think we have a leg up in that way.
I think so too. I do too.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that the more work I'm hoping that that removes those barriers, but then we'll, you know, loosen everything, you know, and eventually the power structure falls and we build it again. This is just getting on my rant about burning academia to the ground, but because really we all just want to do science, you know, at the end of the day. And I don't want to have to, you know, I don't want to have to spend hours of my day talking about how necessary diversity is. We all should just be okay with that.
I love it.
That's not the world we live in, right? But anyway, I hope that that kind of work can continue. I've definitely had some younger astronomers come to me at conferences. I've always been very vocal about it. I keep it in all my talk slides and stuff. We'll have the Frisk Center. I'll usually mention it. Even if I'm talking about astronomy, I'll usually mention, oh, I'm Jess, I'm from Vanderbilt University, I'm an autism self-advocate, and like that'll be it. But I'll always have people come up to me afterwards and say, thank you for saying that. Like, it makes me feel seen. Like, can I talk about it with you?
That's wonderful. Love it.
That's pretty good. Yeah. I don't want to approach people and be like, you know, so it's, if I put that in there, if I put that on my slide, even if it's just a passing comment, generally I will get at least one or two people approach me afterwards and be like, is it okay if I ask you a non-science question? And I'll be like, is it about autism? They'll be like, yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it.
It's nice. It's nice. And that's how you build community. So
that's great. Well, I think you have a lot to share, and I love what you had to say. And yeah, that's great. So, yeah.
I mean, I can keep talking. I could talk all day about this.
I know. And it makes it very gentle to talk about, you know, just know.
I think we need to just be, I don't know, it's hard because I only have one experience, right? I only have my experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that we can't put everyone into one, you know, I can only do what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the same way that people at conferences or whatever will come up to me and say, oh, I wish I could talk about my autism like you do. And I say, well, you know, you don't have to. Like, yes, it's great to have voices elevated. And yes, it is so important that we listen to the community. But if you're not ready, or if you don't feel safe, that's okay. Like, we need to create a safe space so that you can, if you want to, disclose this.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a, you know, it's, although the negative side of having an invisible disability is that it's invisible, that can come sometimes with some benefits, right? Like, you can choose whether or not you disclose it.
Right.
And, you know, that's everyone's personal choice.
That's true.
Yeah, we can't force anyone to tell us that, which is fine, obviously.
Yeah. No, that is true. It's true. You don't have to disclose, and you can if you want. And it depends on the person. So it's a very, you know, personal choice, and it is a choice.
Yeah. I think for me, it was important to disclose openly because of the job I have and the position I have, and where I want to go in my career. I feel like I have, if I can do what I want in my career, if I can kind of climb the academic ladder, then that gives me a platform to help other neurodiverse people come up behind me without like pulling the ladder up, you know. Mm-hmm. But in order to do that, I have to be open about who I am. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, it's fine. Like, I'm used to it now. I'm just like, hi, I'm autistic. Like, sometimes it's scary, right? Like, there's some situations where it's actually, in a weird way, helped me gauge humans a lot better. So like, if I'm, again, like at a conference, imagine like a big networking event, and I'm talking to someone, usually within the first 5 minutes, I'm like, oh, by the way, I'm autistic. I'll usually do something weird, right? And be like, oh, that's my autism. Like, or they'll see that I'm wearing earplugs or something like that, right? And that's like a bit out of the ordinary. And what that's really helped me do is gauge the kind of people I want to work with, which is going to sound awful. But so like, some people are like, oh, cool, tell me about that. Like, or they're interested, right? And then some people are like, oh. And I'm like, well, do you know what? You've just told me everything I need to know. Right? Like, yeah.
That's
easy to say as someone who's like got a job and like has a collaboration and potentially like, you know, will graduate soon and have another job. Like, that's not easy for everybody, right? Mm-hmm. But that was a valuable lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. The same way, you know, you test people when you, it's gonna sound awful, like, you know, you meet someone and you say you want to make sure that they're an advocate for like women in science, right? Mm-hmm. You go up to them and say, I went to that talk about women in science earlier. What did you think? Do you think it was good, bad? What are your thoughts on it? You know what I mean? And I judge by their answer. You're like, got it. Got it.
Oh man, that's good. Oh, if my dad was here now,
Yeah, if he was in the science space, he gets it.
he would love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jessica, you have been a delight. You really have. Yes. Do you have any other words that you want to say to this wonderful audience? Any words of wisdom?
It's a tough one because it's not a specific audience, right? Like I don't know who.
Very diverse audience. Very diverse.
Exactly, it's very diverse, right? So so to the parents out there, I have no advice. I am not a parent, so I cannot be a parent. I cannot give parental advice. To the doctors, no idea. I'm not a doctor of medicine. But to the students, I have advice. Yeah. So if there's any students who, whatever level you are, undergrad, grad, high school, who are looking to go into like a science career or any career, right? Like you can do it. Don't let people tell you cannot do it. They will. Like they will tell you can't do it because, they'll tell you can't do it for a whole bunch of reasons, because you're a woman, because you're a person of color, because you're like poor, because you're whatever, right? They'll find a reason, right? So what I would say is like, always know in your heart that you can, because people around you are going to tell you can't. Don't be one of those people, right? You got enough of that.
Yeah.
Right? If you want to go into space one day, you work on that project to test those assistive technologies to get you into space, right? Like if you want to be an astrophysicist, go and do that, right? It's hard, it's a road. And I know there's conversations here about like privilege and intersectionality and like cards that we've been dealt, but like, don't let anyone else tell you can't pursue your dream. And especially don't let them tell you can't pursue your dream because you're autistic, because that is very stupid. Like just know that you can, know that you have strengths, know that although there are struggles, I sometimes think about autistic people as superheroes. I see some of my friends who go through diagnosis, go through the struggle part, like figure out the things that they find hard, and then start to work on the things that make them like superheroes. And you suddenly see these like students I work with, I love it when I see this happen, like you see these like people emerge from that experience so strong and like having all these amazing skills and like things that neurotypical people could never do. Like, I know that I can sit and code for 9 hours solid. I know I can do that. Neurotypical people cannot do that. They cannot hold concentration like that, right? That is a superpower. I can see colors. Like I see colors when I listen to music. Which, having never tried LSD, I wouldn't be able to compare it, but I imagine it's kind of like LSD. That's so cool, right? Like I can have that experience just normally. So it's about kind of harnessing some of those strengths, right? I can think of a bunch of others. Those are the two that come to mind right now, but it's about hard, and they're special. And like, a lot of the time we're told, my special interests growing up were like, Star Trek, Middle Earth, things like that, right? And everyone was like, that's not going to get you a job, right? But Middle Earth, like, I love it. And that's okay. And like, do I want to, if I sit around learning Elvish and teaching it to my dogs, that's fine. Love it. Do it, right? It's great talking about it at parties, right? Makes you an interesting person. So even if your special interest is a bit weird, and like, sometimes it is useful, like my special interest of Star Trek, like, probably got me a long way to where I am today. So if you want to, if you have an interest that you think is weird, do it. Like if you're really into bees, just be into bees. That's fine.
Yeah.
Or like, I don't know, whales. Whales are cool. Sharks are rad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gemstones are amazing.
There we go, Karen. Yours are gemstones, right? Like gemstones are awesome. And could that be a career? Yes. Could it also just not be? That's fine too. Like it's okay to have interest. I know we live in this world of like, no one has any money because of late stage capitalism, and we're all like trying to like survive. So I feel like there's this kind of idea floating around that like we have to capitalize everything we do. Like, have you got a skill? Oh my God, monetize it. right? Like, but you know what? Just go out, do something for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
Like, if you have the time and the energy and the willpower, like just go and read the Lord of the Rings for the 50th time, right? Or like, you know, go and collect leaves and make beautiful art, whatever. It doesn't have to be your job.
Oh.
And hopefully late stage capitalism will finish and then we'll go to the Star Trek universe where they have no money and just do what they want.
Right on. Well, thank you so much, Jess. You're amazing. Really appreciate having you.
I don't know if any of this is helpful. This is just me saying.
Oh, it's very helpful. You've inspired me and you have enlightened me so much. And I know you've enlightened everybody else. How could anybody get in touch with you?
Yeah, of course. So I assume you can put my email and things on the website or in the video. So always reach out to me via email. I love getting emails, especially from other autistic folk. I love talking about community. I love being on projects. Sign me up for everything. I don't know how to say no. It's a problem. But that's fine. I have a podcast where I talk to astronomers from non-traditional backgrounds. So we have some autistic folk who I interview. I talk to astronomers of color. I talk to Indigenous astronomers. I talk to astronomers who are immigrants, like all different type of folk. And that's called Astronomer And, as in just one word, Astronomer And you can get it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. It's my podcast. My website is jessicastasik.com, just my name.com. And if you have social media and want to see me talk about either dogs or astronomy or politics, it is at Jessstella. That's Jessstella.
Nice. And I know we're all going to check
all the ways you can reach me.
Okay. Thank you so very, very much. Okay.